like broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac. I want to think that there's
Hello, Facebook Live. I'm glad you're here.
We're able to control this epidemic.
It's
We're going to have
October 6th, 2020,
and
it is Tuesday, and I'm here at the WSTU 1450 doing my live radio. As you can see, we're just getting ready to start. So enjoy. Today we're going to go over red light and light therapy, and also how it's being used to really change your health. Some really new, incredible information has come out. Good morning. My name is Dr. Tread Rissacker, and I am a licensed doctor of natural care called chiropractic. I hold licenses in both New York State and the state of Florida, the great state of New York. Chiropractic is the second largest healthcare profession besides medicine, and they have a lot of. It's a great profession to be into. There's plenty of medical doctors out there and lots of hospitals and lots of drug therapies and treatments that are related to the pharmaceutical industry and surgeries, and it's nice to have an option, something that's outside of the normal thought, and it gives you some choices, and I think that's called freedom. Healthcare freedom is the right to choose what you feel is best for you. And instead of having the old story of if every problem, the only tool you have is a hammer in your bag, every problem definitely looks like a nail. And one of the great parts about being in America is the fact that we can choose where we get health care from. And of course, there's a lot of issues with that. It seems that health care is related to your ability to pay for it. So, your insurance and what insurance pays or doesn't pay is a huge part of healthcare. But there's some incredible research coming out with the use of light, the sunlight, and our ability to harness the energy of light and the technology and the ability to harness it, control it, and then dose it as a therapy is absolutely revolutionizing the practice of medicine, the practice of disease, what you do if you're sick, what you can do to not get sick. And also, if you're sick, you can use light to actually repair and stimulate the healing process. And I know those are some bold statements, but if you hear me out in this next hour, I'm going to go into in depth about the use of light therapy called photobiomodulation. We now call it photobiomodulation in helping people to help with depression, to help with insomnia, sleeping problems, to help with tissue healing, tissue regeneration, the ability to lower your blood sugar, the ability to release unwanted stubborn fat with the use of light, photobiomodulation. Also the helping of clearing up skin issues, acne and rashes and cysts in your skin and different issues. Light photobiomodulation is very effective at that. It's also being used to help to reduce wrinkles in your face. It can help tighten skin. It's also something which produces stem cells. And I'm going to go into that today. We've all heard about these stem cells and, regenerative medicine, they're calling it. And they seem to, it seems to be the latest, greatest treatment process where they're isolating stem cells from somebody's body or from somebody else's body. And then they're purifying them and spinning them down, and they have different techniques. And then they're injecting, with the use of a hypodermic needle, these stem cells in an attempt to regenerate the tissue which has been damaged or injured. And it almost sounds like something out of Star Trek, with the little decoder, the Star Trek decoder that he, Dr. Bones he would hold that decoder over somebody, and boom, they'd repair. The tissue would repair, and that's one of the I think the utopian ideas of these stem cells, that it can do this. Well, there's a way that your body produces its own stem cells, and what they're showing is, and I'm going to go into this today in my show, is how photobiomodulation, which is the application of light on tissue, can actually cause you to have an increased amount of these stem cells into your bloodstream without having to have an injection, without having to have it pulled out of tissue, like sucked out of your fat, or without having to get umbilical cord, from pregnancies and things like that. Actually, applying light to your body can create these stem cells. That's pretty amazing. And I have 2 studies in front of me that were done on, which will explain exactly how that's working. I got to do a little promo for what we're doing here, and why. One of the reasons why I'm here is, I'm the owner of the Slim Body Laser Spa, and we're using light, photobiomodulation in the form of low-level lasers to help to cause your fat deposits, fatty tissue, to get smaller, to shrink and reduce girth, and reduce the fat that's collected around your arms, your thighs, your knees, your chin, the front of your belt, the stuff that's spilling over. Of course, it's from overeating. Some of it. It can also be from hormonal changes. But either way, we got to get it off. We got to get help to get this off sometimes. It takes more than diet and exercise as you get after 50, 60 years old. It's much harder. And the use of a low-level laser therapy called photobiomodulation, or red wavelength and near-infrared, which is very safe, and it's healing, as I'm going to explain in today's show, is able to open up the fat cells. It releases those calories. Water, glycerol, and fatty acid is what's contained in a fat cell. 60% water. But the glycerol and the fatty acid molecules, these are huge molecules which, when your body digests them, they release energy. And they're stored away in fat cells for your needs, in case you need them. Now, if you don't overeat, or you don't eat less, you're never really going to release fat, because fat cells are only released when your calories drop below your normal amount, called your BMR. So if your normal caloric intake is 2,400 calories or 2,000 calories, and you have 20 pounds of extra fat, that fat is going to stay with you the rest of your life unless you eat less than that 2,400 or that 2,000 calories. It is there in case of famine, starvation, hurricanes, stopping of Publix being closed, the trucks won't run, pandemics. It is there as an emergency container of food to get you through till the food shows up again, until there's more food available. And hopefully that'll happen within 3 months to 2 years, because that's how long your body fat can keep you alive. You need water every 3 days. You got to have water. You need oxygen every 3 minutes. You could go 1 to 3 months without eating food, as long as when you had a chance to eat, you put on some extra calories. So, fat is very stubborn, and it doesn't come off easy because it's there for your benefit. And in order to get rid of it with diet and exercise, you got to eat less, and you got to exercise more. And when your life and the fun things you do revolve around food and eating out and going to the Bonefish Grill soon, we'll be back there, and meeting your friends for lunch and having dinners with all your family over, and we're not exercising as much as we used to. We're using cars, and when's the last time you actually walked out and put an envelope in the mailbox to send it to a friend? You emailed somebody. So you're not even checking your mailbox anymore. And we're developing massive amounts of accumulated fat. And this is a health crisis. It is going to wear you down like an anchor. You might not be suffering today, but eventually over time, There's just no way to avoid it. And I dedicated my practice and my life in the last 11 years now to helping people find a solution for weight loss and for getting rid of this extra fat. And I'm using photobiomodulation. I'm using the red light energy to do that. So the machine I'm using is called the Lapex BCS Pro. Now BCS this is an FDA cleared low-level laser. And the BCS Pro stands for Body Contouring System. Now this machine was designed to specifically address body contouring through laser inch loss. And it's really an aesthetic device. It's something you'd see at the plastic surgeon's office, something you might see at the dermatologist at Water's Edge in their med spa, their ocean med spa, where you'd go in and you'd have a little champagne and they'd put this thing on your belly and it would make you thinner, That's what it is, and it works phenomenal at that. But what I have found is that if you use that along with nutritional changes, helping people clean up their diet and make better choices for those who need it, which is about 80% of our population, it turns into an incredibly effective process to lose weight and to lose inches faster and quicker than anything you've ever experienced. Faster than what you read at the grocery store in those magazines, like Women's World or Women First, I just saw one that said the new keto, what is it? Keto, they had another term for it. It was keto to the 10th power or something. And it says that she lost 240 pounds doing the new keto to the 10th power diet. And I'm like, 240 pounds? How big was when she started? I mean, I only weigh 225 pounds. I'm 6'1", I'm a guy. That meant that she'd have to have been 400 pounds. And then it said that she lost 27 pounds a month. I don't know, man. I would tell you that I don't want to say it's fake news, but it's definitely rare occurrence that happens. When you see that. Yet that magazine sits at the front of the Publix when you check out. It's right there, so it's in the top spot. It's probably more read than Time, more read than Life, more read than National Geographic, which used to be the big magazines. They grabbed that off of that rack so fast. They make them every 2 weeks. They have a new issue. And it's filled with these diet lures, these hooks, these clickbait, they call it in internet. It's a clickbait. It seems something and it gets your interest. You buy the magazine, 240 pounds. But this accelerated keto diet. Well, that's probably not rational for most of you out there. And what's amazing is when you include weight loss with a laser like we're doing, you still need to understand food and nutrition, because remember, that person that lost those 240 pounds, if they don't change their habits and the way that they put it on, then they're going to just yo-yo back into that weight again, because losing weight is not the same as developing habits to keep weight off. In other words, in medicine, we call it induction. So when you show up at the weight loss center and you got a big 100 pounds to lose, the skills and the tools you use to get rid of 100 pounds very quickly is different than what you're going to do to maintain and sustain the weight loss. It's a different process. And a lot of people, after losing weight, using this induction method, which is, caloric restriction and all the things that they do, they eat food that they're really not comfortable with. They're eating foods that normally they would not like, but they're trying to, they have the motivation because they want to lose the weight. And then once the weight comes off, they think they got this thing licked. It's like, good, hey, I'm good, I've arrived. You haven't arrived. You're not even halfway there, because now you're dealing with a body desire that wants to put on more calories because it's used to the higher amount. they've proven this in research that when somebody gains weight and keeps it on 20, 30 pounds for more than, 6 months, which is the normal, anything more than that means you're overeating through the winter, your body changes its hormonal profile. And when you lose those 30 pounds, your metabolism desires that extra 30 pounds. It wants to put it back on. And this is why so many people, after they lose weight, go back to gaining the weight back, and they're eating 30% less than they did when they lost the weight. And it's mind-blowing, it's baffling, but everybody burns calories at a different rate. Not everybody, if everybody eats a bagel with cream cheese and lox, and 100 people eat it, there's 30 of you out there that are not going to gain weight from that bagel. Okay? And then there's 30 of you out there that will, stop losing weight, and then there's another 30 that are going to put on 5 pounds for the same food. It is not the food as much as it is your genetics, your body's metabolism, and how you burn calories, your ability to everybody has a friend or somebody in your group who can eat anything they want, right? And they never get fat, right? They eat as much as you do, and you get fat eating half as much, and they don't. And this is something which has become proven in weight loss and in the studies to show that it isn't so much. I mean, what type of food you're eating means a lot, whether it's a carbohydrate or a fat, or if it's sugary, or if it's empty calories. I mean, that definitely has something to do with it. But what has more to do with it is your body's ability to metabolize it and break it down and use it as energy or store it as fat. Everybody has a different mechanism that they show up with. And that's where a lot of doctors, weight loss centers, diet plans, keto fads, all these different food, making food into an enemy, telling you that you should never eat this food. You should never eat ice cream. You should never eat bread, or you should never eat fat, or you should only eat fat, right? This is, and they're losing touch with the real issue, which is your body's metabolism and your body's ability to burn energy versus storing fat. And that's what I focus on. I could probably make more money than God just getting you to buy a certain food product or a certain supplement that is guaranteed to have you lose weight no matter what you eat. And it really will only work for half of you, and the other half will get heavy from it, because that's the way humans deal with food and metabolism. So we want to get to the bottom, to the real core of your weight gain and your metabolism, which is your body's ability to absorb energy, your body's ability to burn energy, and where the energy comes from. And in medicine, we call it the mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria is which is something which is within a cell. Your body is made up of 1 trillion cells, individual cells, and you've got muscle cells, and you've got fat cells, and you've got bone cells, and you've got nervous tissue cells, you've got ligament cells, and these cells all have some commonalities within them. Just like plant cells, they all have a cell wall, a cell membrane, which almost looks like a soap bubble. I'm sure you understand that cells have these cell membranes. And then within a cell, whether it's a muscle, ligament, bone, or fat, it has a nucleus. It has a nucleus in the middle, which is where the genetic material is held. And that would be the DNA. And then within the cytoplasm, which surrounds the nucleus within the cell membranes. Now, the cell membrane is a fatty phospholipid membrane. Within there are little, they call them organelles. And one of them helps with cell division. One of them helps with keeping track of the what goes in and out of the cells. But there's one of them in there, one of the organelles, which is called a mitochondria. And a mitochondria is a organelle within every cell of your body that is the nuclear plant. That is the power generating station for that cell. So the mitochondria's function, how many mitochondria you have, can vary from person to person. And how many are in different cells, depending on how much you use them, can vary also. So a cell which has very little activity, like a fat cell, just holds calories, has a very small amount of mitochondria. It doesn't need it because it just holds calories. A muscle cell, on the other hand, which is part of a contractile tissue, something which is contracting and relaxing every time you move, those have an enormous amount of mitochondria within them. Neurons, nerve cells that make up your brain and all the nerves which run your body, they have a lot of mitochondria compared to other tissues. And depending on how much you use them depends on the amount of mitochondria. So mitochondria are the powerhouse. And if you want to look at the health of somebody, if you want to avoid disease, and if you want to have all of the systems to work better, your digestion, your elimination, your circulation, your nervous system function, if you want your musculature to work better, you need good energy going into those mitochondria. The mitochondria need food. They need energy to do their work, to produce the energy that the cell needs to live. And the main source of that energy comes through the nutrition that you eat, the food you eat. Within the food is energy locked up in molecules, in starch. Now, the starch comes from the plant, right? We got starchy plants, potatoes, broccoli, fruits. These are starches. And within a starch is the energy that your body needs for the mitochondria to function. But I want you to know that that energy originally came from the sun. The sun is a thermonuclear reactor of monumental proportions, and how far away it is from the Earth, and it's at a perfect spot that the amount of energy that it puts out, the photonic energy from the sun, is what powers your body and powers Earth and gives us light and heat. And food and energy is coming off of the sun. And as the energy comes through our atmosphere, some of it is strained away. The really negative, it could be very toxic. The sun rays can be very harmful if we didn't have this envelope surrounding us called our atmosphere. And that strains out the gamma rays and the X-rays and the cosmic rays. And then what comes through is the visible spectrum that you see is light. Reds, yellows, greens, blues, violets. And then there's wavelengths that you can't see. Near infrared, and far infrared, and some other wavelengths of before and after that, which you don't really have to worry about here. And what happens is, when that energy strikes a plant, and the plant combines oxygen and water with chlorophyll, it can make starch. It can capture that energy in the form of the starch within the plant. And then the plant builds with carbon, the leaves, the trunk, the bark, through the carbon and other substances. So in essence, those plants have captured the energy from the sun. Now, the energy from the sun also provides energy for bacteria and viruses and makes oxygen and created water. Water comes as a result of this chlorophyll. You know, when the plant absorbs the energy, it produces CO2, right? And oxygen. I'm sorry, it produces oxygen and water when it strikes it, and then the CO2 is then recycled back in, and it's a beautiful symbiotic system. But just understand that when you eat the plant, you are breaking down that energy from the sun, which is chemical energy, is being put into your body, and that's what you use as energy. That's what powers your mitochondria. And there's no doubt about that. Now, the energy can be held in fatty molecules within fat. It can be held within protein and the amino acid chains that hold energy, and the same with carbohydrates. The carbohydrate, which are the plant products, they hold energy also. Now, the amount of energy that each of these foods holds, either it's protein, fat, or carbohydrate, it varies based on the basic makeup of it. So the food that has the highest amount of energy to be released would be your carbohydrates. And those are the starches. And basically, those are the sugars. And that's why if you eat too much carbohydrate, you produce too much energy and you make fat. Now, the proteins and the fats, they contain the energy also, but it's a lot harder for the body to get the energy out of a piece of protein or something fatty acid, from a fatty acid. And it's that difficulty, the slow release of the blood, of the sugar, of the energy, that makes eating protein a friend with weight loss, because it doesn't raise your blood sugar that quickly. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, your plants and your fruits, they raise your blood sugar very fast. And when blood sugar goes up fast and you're not burning the energy, that's how you make fat, everybody, not by eating too much protein. Now, you can always make fat by eating more calories than you burn for the day, but just know that it's the energy that you're eating that goes into the mitochondria. Now, here is where light comes into play. You're listening to Slim Body Laser Spa. My name is Dr. Rissacker, and I'm open for consultations over on East Ocean Boulevard, and that's right across from the Fresh Market. I'm using a laser to help you to lose inches, get rid of stubborn fat, help regenerate and heal the body with this low-level photo biomodulation. We have a Discovery Day offer for anybody listening today. It's a $49 come in, try it one time, no obligation to become a client. You can do it one time if you've never been into our office, and you'll sit down with a consultation with me. I'll make sure that you're a good candidate and see what we can do, and then we can give you that $49 try the laser out. Now, our regular fee for that $49 is $300. So it would be the first visit of a 9-session plan, and you can use that $49 to pay less for the plan over the term of the 3 weeks, or you can just enjoy that $49 tryout one time. But you can't do that twice, or you can't stack them or save them together. It's an idea of letting you try it out, and you can come in and see the office. And we have that available right now to us. And we were recently featured in the My Living magazines, which they just did about 10 of them I saw come to my mailbox this week. And within that, about halfway through is my ad, and it shows Martin County's #1 laser slimming center for 10 years strong, and it has the $49 coupon within that. You can also go online at Dr. Tread's SlimBodyLaserSpa.com or Dr. Tread. When you see my website, hit the contact page, do say I'd like to take advantage of the $49, try it out, and then my staff will contact you. We'll set you up for that free consultation. Okay, so what we've been talking about, if you just tuned in, we're talking about energy and the importance of energy that really makes up the difference as to how your body handles food. We're all looking for the reason why we're gaining weight. Many of us are trying to figure out how to lose weight. And the standard approach is to change what you're eating in some way, that you're eating bad foods and good foods and bad things and not so good things. And I'm telling you, that has something to do with it, but it's not 100% sure. It's really about your body's ability to burn energy. And this has to do on the cellular biological levels called the mitochondria. Within your cells, you have heart cells, blood cells, tissue cells. A cell has a nucleus in the middle, and then in the cytoplasm, which is the fluid within the cell, there's organelles, and some of them help with the separation of the cell when it divides. Some help with regulating substances that come in and out of the cell. But there's one organelle within a cell called a mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse, the energy producer of the cell. The mitochondria absorbs energy from the body, and when the energy goes into the mitochondria, the mitochondria produces ATP, the energy that powers your body. So your body's ability to heal itself, to repair itself, to maintain life is 100% dependent on mitochondria function within each and every cell of your body. Now, mitochondria get their energy from the food we eat in the form of starches. But there's another hidden way that gets energy, which I'm going to go in here to today, and it actually comes directly from light, directly from the sun. Now, there's systems in your body that require food and nutrition to power mitochondria. But there's another system in your body which most people don't know much about, and it's called their photoreceptors. They're receptors in your cells that respond to the light spectrum, to the sun. So, when you lay out on the sun for a half hour and you take your shirt off and the sun goes into the skin, this is activating a system within your body which produces energy to the mitochondria. Now, and it's different than than the way it gets energy from food. We need light to be put onto our bodies every day in safe amounts, in a good way, in order for us to be healthy. Light, in its different spectrums, whether it's red, near-infrared, far-infrared, blue, green, has different beneficial effects on your body's immune system and your body's ability to repair itself and to maintain health. Light, and the main receptors that are like solar cells. You know what a photovoltaic cell is? I want you to know something. 100 years ago, they didn't have solar cells. They didn't believe that the energy that came from the sun could be turned into electricity. They didn't have the technology. And then as they developed these solar cells, these electric, these chemical these little chips that when the sun hits it, it turns the photons into electricity. This was something that we don't even think twice about. We see these big solar panels everywhere. That's the sun hitting the chemical in that chip, and the chemical turns it into electricity. Now, your body is an electrical current. It works through electricity. We are electrical creatures. We live in an electronic universe, and we know nothing about electricity. But I promise you, when your brain sends a message down your nerve to your arm to move your foot, that's an electrical message that went from your brain to the muscles. When the muscles contracted, it created something called an action potential. It's an electrical measurement that contracted the muscle. When the muscle relaxes, there's another electrical contraction message that goes up to the brain. We can put sensors on your brain called ECG sensors, and we can measure the electrical activity within your brain when you think of thoughts, when you move your arm, when you blink your eyes. We can keep track of those electrical potentials because it's an electrical instrument. And it travels down the nerves, which are like wires. And these electrical potentials are produced by the mitochondria within your cells, and they respond to light like more than you could ever have believed. And that's what I'm going to try to show you here today in a very simple explanation. So let's go back on your mom and dad, right? I had a mom and dad, wonderful people. Dad passed away, 14 years ago. To me, I think he died young at 79. My mom passed 4 years ago at 82. Now, she had a mom and a dad, my grandmother and my grandfather, and so did my father. And they had grandparents also. They had parents too. And so that goes back 3 generations. Well, you go back 4 generations, 5, 6, 10. You know, this is something that goes way back. Now, I'm not here to go over evolution or argue the fact that we all must have had an ancestor somewhere down the line. I don't think we were just magically popped here. So what happens is your ancestors 10 and 20,000 years ago, they really lived off of the use of light. Light was much more important to somebody who sleeps outside, that wakes up in the first light, goes to sleep when the sun goes down. They were connected to the ground with their feet. They touched the earth, which today we know the earth is a negative pull. It's a ground. That's why we ground electrical appliances into the earth. You know, your house is grounded to the earth. All your electricity that goes into your house, they have a ground. They drive a brass rod into the ground and the outside of your meter. And that way, when electricity overloads or it goes in, it doesn't ruin your house. It goes into the ground. So the earth is a ground. When the clouds pull up moisture into the air and the clouds fill with, the moisture, and a big lightning bolt comes out of the clouds, it's going into the ground because the lightning bolt is a positive charge, ionic charge, and it discharges into the ground. So the ground pulls these things in. Your body and your ancestors, your body functions by being connected to the ground. If you were to walk without shoes on, your body will be healthier because of the electrical potential that the earth allows your body to function, because this was developed over hundreds of thousands of years before we ever decided to live in buildings and wear rubber shoes. Now, it seems almost funny. It seems like, well, but they told me not to wear shoes because I might get a ringworm or something, or, my feet are so tender I can't walk without shoes. I understand that. But that doesn't mean you can't stand outside, and ground yourself. So there's a lot of research that is being done today on this thing called grounding. And one of them is that when you do 20 minutes on the ground, almost, put your hands on the ground, your knees, skin to dirt, your body's electrical potential is improved because it discharges the electrical potentials that have developed in your body. And this is not going to change your whole life, but it could. And it's getting back to things that are natural and the way that we were created by our Creator to function. In other words, we're electrical creatures living in an electronic universe, and we know nothing about electricity. And when you wear, and there was some studies that they've done that shows that when when we made shoes that were no longer leather soles, when I was a kid, we used to eat, we didn't have sneakers. We had loafers, little penny loafers, and they're leather, and that's a connection to the ground. But then they mass-produce shoes, and they develop these things called sneakers. And sneakers are rubber surrounded by rubber, and that prevents you from really touching the earth. And, we're not a healthy community. We have a lot of chronic disease. We have a lot of depression. We have a lot of mental issues and dementia. And, could you imagine it's possible that some of this is happening because we stopped that connection to the earth that gave us our life? And at the same time, energy comes from light, and it strikes your eyes, It goes into your eyes. There's receptors within your eyes called, I don't know all the names. There's a lot of them, but it's different than what you do for vision. It's not a rod or a cone, which allows you to see things. These are photovoltaic receptors that respond to the color of the light. In the morning, when the sun first comes up, it's low on the horizon, and it's called red and yellow light. And this is, I get up every morning, and for 20 to 30 minutes, I sit outside and I allow the sun, I look at the sun. In the morning you can look at it. It's not going to hurt your eyes. You don't look at it at high noon, but you can see it. It's yellow, it's red. I don't stare right into it. But I want those lights to go into my eye. And what happens is those messengers, those photons stimulate your circadian rhythms. This stimulates the fact that it's time to wake up, right? It's time to be, to detoxify the body from the night rest because your kidneys accumulated a lot of poison. So this is why we have to urinate, besides the fact that we have a full bladder. It also stimulates the desire to want to eat some nutrition. It also starts your systems that are too numerous to name here. And light is like the atomic clock that humans need. Every time the sun goes up and down, it starts out at the horizon, it's red and yellow. As it starts to go up closer to noon, it turns into a blue light, which is very intense and not time to sleep. And then as it starts to go down into the evening and it starts to set, it turns red and yellow again, doesn't it? And then it goes down on the other side of the earth, and we're in darkness the next 6 to 8 hours. Your body's rhythms, your healing, your digestion, your hormone release, when you want to have sex, when you don't want to have sex, how well the desire to function is really tied directly to that cycle. So one of the problems we're getting as humans is our industrialized age, our ability to cram so many people into one small spot has necessitated us to make buildings to protect us. These rooms, these dorms, these apartments, your houses, garages. And we have now, because we want to stay up later than the light and dark cycles, we artificially illuminate our world with lights, with electricity, massive amounts of electricity traveling through the air, through the wires, and powering light. Yet your body is an electrical instrument, and it uses electricity to power its systems, the brain, the nerves, the hormones, your immune system. And if you put somebody, one of these very sensitive creatures, which is what we are, next to a really powerful source of electricity, it can create havoc within our systems. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. Now, how much it does, I don't really know. But I just don't understand why we're all having so many health problems, so many emotional problems, why that the pharmaceutical industry even has a business. If we weren't sick, we wouldn't be taking pills, right? And if we felt good, we wouldn't need them. But for some reason, we got issues. We got weight gain that's exploding in so many ways. We have so much medicine that we're taking to wake up, to go to sleep because my feet hurt. I'm eating happy pills. I do energy drinks. It's amazing the amount of discord and weird just symptomatology that's become so common. And, it's like we need to get back to basics of life. This isn't something that even has to be researched. It just makes sense. It makes sense to me. Yesterday I went out and, it rained yesterday, and I live right on the water there and I face I faced the sunrise. And last night, before I went to sleep, I went out and I sat on the grass, and I had just my just gym shorts on. It was a nice cool breeze. I looked up at the moon and I put my hand down in the grass, and I sat in my spot, and I just did some deep breathing, and I tried to connect to the earth. You know, I said to myself, all right, if I'm full of these positive charges in my brain and I'm congested and, you know, I can't get the thoughts out of my head, maybe they need to go into the ground, you know? So I sat there and I allowed that to happen. And, you know, I did it for like 20 minutes. My dogs were there with me, and I got up and I went to sleep, and I slept the whole night. I mean, I didn't wake up. I have a tendency of waking up at 3 and at 2, and, you know, these thoughts and different, I try to work out all my problems. And that one night before I went to bed, sitting in the grass with my hands, and this morning I sat and I read the paper, but I didn't use my eyeglasses because you can't get the photoreceptors, don't work if you have sunglasses or eyeglasses. And so I have been doing the morning routine for some months now because I understand the importance of light. So that's something that I'm doing every day, and I'm definitely going to get at least a half hour to an hour of full sunlight on my chest, my legs. I don't have any, not fearful of skin cancer. I don't have any issues with that. And I'll tell you, I feel better. So at the Slim Body Laser Spa, we're using red light. These low-level lasers are red light machines, the same as the spectrum from the sun, and also near infrared. So there's red and then there's near infrared. And these two wavelengths have been very beneficial in feeding and energizing those mitochondria. And if you apply them to the fat cells, the skin where the fat cells are, it activates the mitochondria within the fat cells, and that releases the active contents of the fat cell. And then once that fatty acid is in the space, in the interstitial spaces, then we use a system called whole body vibration to move it from the outside into the visceral system. And the calories are burned as energy by you. The water you remove through the urine. And every day you do it, you lose a little bit of body fat on the outside. And what you notice is an inch reduction in measurement. 9 30-minute sessions of red light to the fat cells will give you a 6 to a 9 inch girth. It can be up to, you know, in combining 3 measurements, I would say 1 to 4 inch girth reduction, and that's waist size. I went from a 40 waist to a 36 waist, applying this silly red light to my belly fat. I did it 7 years ago. I've taken care of over 5,000 people at the Slim Body Spa using this exact process, not really understanding how light really worked. But I knew you got results, and I knew it was safe because the FDA had studied it. But recently I've done a lot more research on trying to understand this. Now, I'm going to tease you with a little knowledge here, which I'm going to go into on my next program, or you can come into the office and talk about it. So, remember I started this show talking about stem cells? Now, if you've been living under a rock and you've never heard of a stem cell, these are all these ads you see in the paper about regenerative medicine, stem cells. They can inject stem cells into a rotten knee, and the knee repairs itself. They can inject stem cells into tissues that need help, painful conditions. And, you know, a stem cell treatment can go anywhere from $700 to $3,000 for one round of stem cell treatments. And what they're doing is they're pulling stem cells from your body's blood system, from the blood supply or the fat cells, and then they're spinning them in a centrifuge, and then they're putting fluids and stuff into it, and then they're injecting them directly into the area that hurts. Now, those stem cells differentiate and improve the healing of that tissue. Well, they've done some studies on red light therapy. Now, these stem cells come from your bone marrow, from the inner part of the bone cells called hematopoietic cells. So if you were to take your long bone and crack it in half, it's full of stem cells. And what we're able to do with these red lights is you can put the red light on your tibia, which is the shin bone, which is close to the surface. In 10 minutes of applying that energy several times a week, you are increasing your natural stem cells are going into the bloodstream, and they go and they're attracted to tissue which needs help, areas that are deficient. It's a natural process. What the red light does is it increases the amount and the number of stem cells that are available to the body, and stem cells naturally migrate to the tissue. Now, they did some studies with myocardial infarct, where they found out that this can help heal muscle damage from the heart. They're also using it in all kinds of studies right now. I have 2 studies in front of me, and we're out of time to really go into this, but just check it out. One is called The Influence of Low-Level Laser Radiation on Migration of Stem Cells. If you're interested in knowing more about it, give us a shout out at my email, Dr. Tread Slim Body Laser Spa. Well, it's called slimbodylaserspa@gmail.com. Go on my contact, say you'd like to see the paper on the stem cell, red light and stem cells. I'll send it out to you. And please remember, we have that $49 Discovery Day. Come on in. We got some openings. It's COVID. We're coming back. We're getting busy again. And it's a perfect opportunity right now to come in and lose some fat. All right. I hope you enjoyed this talk. You can also see this talk on my Facebook page, because it is going live right now, and you can always go back and see this again and again. I'm going to hold up that part about the light therapy. Actually, I think it's backwards because it's the wrong way on the camera. Anyway, we love and care and appreciate all of my listeners. I think we're about out of time. I can't hear the music, but Evan is shaking his head. I'll see you next week. Thank you so much.